All right, welcome back, everyone, to yet another week of Just Jossin. I am one half of your hosts, Sabrina.
And I'm Jasmine, the other half of the dynamic duo. Two hosts, no waiting.
That's right. And we have some fantastic news. If you follow us on social media, you'll have already known this by the time this episode comes out. But we are now officially on Spotify, and we have a website as well at Buzzsprout. So you can find us at justjossinpodcast.buzzsprout.com. And if you're watching this on YouTube, in theory, I'm going to take and put that link down in the bottom. But
what if people on Vlog Brothers, the doobly-doo? They're like, the link is in the doobly-doo.
Down there. Or maybe I'll make it pop up, although you won't be able to click
there,
it
or there, or
there. Somewhere. All right.
You're the tech person, so you figure that out, okay?
This is the first time in my life I've ever been the tech person. That's been the one good thing about quarantine. I now have an expanded repertoire. I can now like foods, and I now know how to do editing and random uploads and things like that.
That's excellent. Because I'm just the persona. I'm just, the voice in your ear.
You know what we should do one of these weeks? Well, I mean, you would be eating it by yourself, but or if we do an episode like where we're both in the same location, you should make like just Jossin themed cake or something, or cupcakes.
Ooh, like a Mr. Pointy cake.
Yes, yes. Or just make Willow. All right, so we are going to be covering What's My Line Part 1 and 2 this episode.
Which came out at the middle to end of November in 1997. It was written by Marty Noxon, although it actually had two different directors between What's My Line Part 1 and What's My Line Part 2. So the first director was David Solomon, and then the second director was like David Semel.
David Smell or Shamel?
Semel? It's Semel. So I'm going with Semel, who is apparently a different person than David Solomon. So yeah, the Davids directed these episodes, and we start out with Career Week. And it's Career Week starts tomorrow on their banner.
Which, I mean, isn't it so much fun making high school students try to decide what they're going to be for the rest of their lives? You're 16, you've got this figured out.
But I have to say, I love whoever was doing their prop and set design, because right behind Xander, as Xander's chit-chatting, are these like dancing skeletons with math behind them. So it's a skeleton and 3.14 and 2 plus 2, which is such like a high school bulletin board.
Yep.
Like, it's Halloween and math.
Yeah, that is very much so something you would see in, I think, probably high schools still today.
Teachers getting their creativity on, doing a good bulletin board. So, Buffy's talking about, well, my fate's already sealed. I know what I'm gonna be,
She already has a career.
Well, yeah, she had a career, and they keep talking about like the how poorly salaried. I can't remember exactly what Xander says, but he's like, long hours and sub minimum wage. And I thought to myself, does Giles get paid? Like
he has, not by the Watchers, but I mean, he is the school librarian.
But is he not paid by the Watchers? Because the Watchers Council like fires him eventually. So did he have like a benefits plan? Or
I would hope at least wound care.
And like, if that's the case, all these like rich white old men who are the Watchers, why do they not have money to give the Slayer? To be like, here, Slayer, your entire job is to be the Slayer. Here is a salary of $60,000 a year. Like,
So you're asking why rich white men wouldn't give the woman doing all of the work compensation? This is your question?
this is my question. Unpaid labor here, okay?
Mm-hmm.
So,
I guess, you know what their theory probably is, if she's really that hard up, she can rob the demons. Some of them have money laying around.
or gold.
Yeah.
Lots of gold. And so they're filling out their questionnaires with such questions of, do you like shrubs?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, it was a very bizarre aptitude test. Like, clearly that's like landscaping. If you like shrubs, landscaping.
Mm-hmm. And then we flash to Spike trying to work with Dalton. Dalton, the vampire who wears glasses.
He's the vampire librarian, it seems.
Yep. And also, like, do vampires need glasses? Like, don't you automatically fix that when you get your demon eyes? But
You would definitely think so. I feel like he's probably doing it for the aesthetic. Like, maybe once he became a vampire, he really missed his glasses, or like had that phantom feeling. So he was just like, screw it.
so they're trying to like decipher the Duloc book, and it's making no sense. It's like beef canoe or something like that. Unload the beef canoe, and he's like, this is not working. And Drusilla is like, dance with me. And Spike is so I understand, but he's so mean to her. And Juliet Landau just does the she crumples in on herself and she whimpers. And Spike's like, oh shit, like, I can't do that to my woman.
Yeah, that was a good play on Drusilla's part.
She's like, I need to go change Miss Edith. And he's like, I'm so sorry. Like, there's a little bit of emotional manipulation there, I think.
Oh yeah.
But then she pulls out her tarot cards and is like, you need the key. And the key is apparently in, this crypt. Like, boom, there it is, because I pulled out cards. I looked. Those have to have been specially made just for her cards because they are so cool, but they are not normal tarot.
I can definitely believe that those were specially made. I mean, if you were Drusilla, I'm sure you would just be like, make this for me or I'll eat your family. And then she'd eat the family anyway.
So, like, usually you see people using what's called I think it's called the Rider-Waite or the Rider tarot deck, because like the common tarot deck. And so I was looking, and some of them looked like they might have been, but others were very definitely not. The 3 later when she shows the 3, that's obviously,
a special card. Yeah.
So
and I always love it in the scenes where Drusilla is, reading the stars and stuff like that. It always makes me wonder, like, what her human life would have been like.
Yeah. So eventually she's like, oh yes, get the key, gotta figure it out because it's in code. And he's like, oh, I'll go send the boys on it. And then he picks her up and dances with her because she's so weak that she can't really spin and twirl. Mm-hmm. So he twirls her. Like, oh, I love their love. I love their love.
Their chemistry is what basically saves both of them, like with Joss Whedon.
Yes.
That's they were not meant to stick around. It was just how magnetic they are on camera and how much everyone loved them. Like you can't kill off characters like that right away. Like you need more story with them. Which thankfully, even though Joss Whedon was not thrilled with it, he went with it.
Yep. And so Buffy's out, doing her little patrol thing, and she hears clinking coming from a crypt.
And so dig the whole night through.
Little hammer in, and she like sneaks her head in, and she looks, and she kind of gives like this face, and then she like backs out and just like walks and just waits for Dalton to come out. Like she doesn't sneak up on him while he's doing his thing. She just waits so that she can deliver her little quippy line.
Is that safe for you?
But then, of course, Dalton escapes. While she's too busy slaying one vamp, Dalton escapes with the key.
Yes. Which is a book.
No, it's a cross.
Oh, yeah.
It's a
I
cross.
thought it was...
They got the Book of Duloc previously.
Oh, yeah. Yes. Never mind there. Yes.
That was...
Tra-la-la.
Tralala. Okay. So yeah, and then Buffy sneaks in through her window and sees Angel just in her room. He's invited himself in to cuddle with her stuffed pig.
Mr. Gordo.
Mr. Gordo. And he's just like holding it to his chest.
And petting it.
And so she scares him. And then he's like, why did you come in through the window if your mom's not here? And she's like, and you kind of see her clock. She's like, oh, habit.
Which also tells you how often she's doing it.
Yes. Every single night.
Yeah.
For a year or so now.
Yes. And of course, Angel's there for the most important thing, to ask Buffy on like a real date.
Well, so he says that he's feeling concerned about her. There's concern, and she's like, and then he's like, what? Well, and so he's asking her. She says that she like kind of wants a normal life because she's talking about career week, which he knows about because he lurks.
Yes.
Like
Shucks.
Stocks lurks, I'm imagining him like sneaking onto campus, like Sunnydale High campus after hours, and like staring at the creepy cheerleading statue. So yeah, he says, oh, career week. And as Buffy is saying to him, like, normal life, she's looking in the mirror, and it's just her in the mirror. Angel's not there, even though he's right next to her, which is a pretty cool camera work. Obviously they were doing, film the scene without him and film the scene with him, and then we'll splice it together. But it looked really cool. And she's talking about how, her life is set, fate, and but she still wants Angel. And then he says, okay, well, let's go on a real date. You used to ice skate, let's go ice skating tomorrow.
Yes. And David Boreanaz was actually a really good hockey player, so he would have been like perfectly at home on the ice, although, well, we don't get so much of that, but we'll get to that.
Yeah.
And so Buffy, before they get to go on their date, the career assessments come back. And Buffy gets law enforcement. Which makes so much sense. And technically is a job she could do while slaying.
Yes.
Be somewhat helpful. But she's not cool with that because of the polyester. The outfit is a drag.
and the brutality. Like, I love that. Even
Even then.
1997.
Mm-hmm.
And what you think about cops is polyester, donuts, and brutality. And
Well, it's
here,
not so, I mean, it's California, and we're not so far out from the Rodney King like brutality incident and the riots. I mean, what did that happen in 92? This is like 5 years later.
Probably.
But yeah, no, I definitely made a note of that. Like, oh, people still think of the same thing about cops, although I don't necessarily think polyester. Cotton blend, perhaps.
But yeah, so now we're in 2020. So this is 23 years later, and we're still
had to bring that up.
With
You just had to bring up that it's 23 years later.
and this is what we're dealing with.
Yeah, it is basically like 1992 on steroids, with the steroid rage, to be exact.
But then Willow, she's not even posted.
No,
they're like, you weren't there, and she's like, but I took the test. I used a number 2 pencil.
Yeah, I love how Xander's like, you passed, and she's like, you don't pass or fail this.
And then these 2 guys in like matching suits but different ties ask her to like please come behind their little curtained area to the student lounge, where they offer her canapes and tell her that has been watched by like this software company CEO and who's been delayed at CTAC. And so she sits down next to the one other person that they're interested in, and Oz looks at her, and Oz looks at her. And the expression on Seth Green's face, like you just see like he like looks, and then like his eyes, and he just kind of like his entire body just bristles up. Like
it's like someone has made him come alive.
Yeah. It's that like all those times where he's like, who is that girl? Who is that girl? And then it's that girl.
And Willow, of course, is just like, oh, hello, person I've never seen before.
And then he's like, canapé? Like, how do I like break the ice here? Oh, look, these hors d'oeuvres that I have in my hand.
I'm not down with that sort of thing. I prefer underperforming.
Yep.
But I'm a really good test taker. Again, though, it's not the kind of test that you pass or fail. So find out about right after this, the Order of Taraka, yes, the Order of Taraka. And I think we pretty quickly move from that scene to finding out about them. Yep.
So like Buffy talks to Giles, and Giles is like, WTF, like, why didn't you stop that other guy? What was he doing? What was he getting? You know, and she's saying, get off my back. Like,
I was slaying,
you know? So they run off to the mausoleum, and Giles realizes that it's the Josephus Dulac. Josephus. Who was excommunicated from the Vatican and also wrote the book that was stolen a couple of weeks earlier.
Yes.
And he's like, oh no, this is a problem. You know, this is actually a problem. So it's time to do more research.
And Giles was pretty sure that he was looking at a big problem, because vampires don't just go digging in crypts. Like, that's not their deal. They might vandalize it, but they're not going to be like, oh, look at this, I'm just going to take that. And especially if it involves them digging for an extended period of time.
And so then, you know, Dalton's all, well, the Slayer's going to be a problem. And Spike's like, no shit, Sherlock. Like, she's the Slayer. You are interrupting my, like, cuddle time with my honey. Like, now that we have the key. And she's talking about, like, you know,
Mhm.
She's talking about whatever whimsical thing she's talking about at that moment.
Boiling eyes or something.
Worms in her baguette.
Yes. You know, normal things that the ladies chat about.
Yep. Um, and so he says, okay, we're bringing in the Order of Taraka. And Dalton's like, isn't that overkill? And he's like, no, it's just the right amount of kill to,
Hmm.
kill the Slayer. And so then we see Drusilla turns over 3 cards.
Hmm.
There's a Cyclops, there's a creepy bug, and then there's a jaguar coming out of some bushes.
Yes. And then, we start to see the 3 descend. And then we also see who is not explained coming off of a plane carrier. And like in the cargo area.
Yeah.
And we do learn that is Kendra, and I love her,
Uh-huh.
which
But
is
they
very sad for me.
definitely foreshadow her or like insinuate that she is the
Yes.
jaguar.
Oh,
Because
yeah.
it's the Cyclops guy with one eye comes out. Bugman, and you see the Norman Pfister, who still creeps me out. But then you see this like very cat-like lithe woman, and
Mm-hmm.
you're like, well, obviously she's the jaguar, and she's not.
Yeah.
But
He's a red herring.
mm-hmm.
Um, and then we come back and it is date night.
Mm-hmm.
And Buffy gets there before Angel, and it looks like, I think it's actually Sarah Michelle Gellar who does all that skating that we
Yeah,
see.
yeah.
Um,
Uh,
yes, she clearly, that photo of her as a child skating is Sarah Michelle Gellar as a child ice skating.
really? Or
I think so, yeah. Because she clearly has some skill. Because like I kept looking at, you can usually tell if like an actor or an actress can't
yeah,
perform whatever task it is because they don't show their face while they're doing it. Or they'll just zoom in on their face, and they showed her full body, and you could see her face throughout it. And unless her stunt double is an ice skating twin. uh,
so she was talking about her Dorothy Hamill stage.
yes.
And so Dorothy Hamill was a 1976
Hmm.
Olympic champion, like ice figure champion. So 1997, 1970. So it's a full 20 years earlier. Like
Well,
what?
I mean, Dorothy Hamill, I mean, I remember watching that as a kid, and I got the reference. But I was
Uh-huh.
also weirdly into ice skating as a child, so
I was not.
yeah. I loved Michelle Kwan as a kid. I had a whole bunch of books on her.
Um, so I thought it was like slightly off. Although it does say, or now that I'm looking at the Wikipedia page, Hamill was an Ice Capades headliner from 1977 to 1984.
Yeah.
So that would have been like around the time that Buffy was, 4 or.
Hmm. With a bad haircut.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but yeah, so she's out there ice skating, having this like quiet moment, which Buffy does not really get. Just this quiet moment, enjoying like life and waiting for Angel. She gets close to the barricade, and she gets a nice little surprise of not Angel,
Yep.
Cyclops man, in fact,
Yep.
is there,
Uh,
and he's all like, grr.
Taraka Guy Part 1.
Yes.
Who looks like he was like a wrestler or a biker combined. Like, he's got the denim jacket and the studded bracelet, and and is he a demon or is he a person?
I thought he was vampy.
I don't think he was a vampire because she cuts his neck.
Yeah, I don't know. Well, I guess I never really thought about like when she cuts his, because you can decapitate vampires. But they do say that the Order is a mixture of demons and humans. So it's possible that it's a human.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I don't know if he was human or not, but like Buffy kills him.
Mm-hmm.
And she like slices his neck, and he grabs his neck and he falls to the ground, and then his body is just there, and they take his ring, and they're like, oh no, the ring. But like, you just leave the body there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Angel comes in while she's fighting and helps end him.
But I mean, I feel like he has to have been demon instead of human.
Because he's so strong, yeah.
Well, not just because he's so strong, but also because like Buffy doesn't kill humans. So I feel like he has to have been a demon of some kind.
I think also like just I think she would have been able to take a human easier. I would hope if she's fighting, demons and vampires all the time.
Yep.
But Angel is in his vamp face, and he's like, I don't want you touching me when I'm like this, and she's like, oh, I didn't notice, and they get a smoocheroonie.
Yep.
And
it's kind of like he got a vampire erection.
Yeah.
It's like, I'm a little aroused. And she's like, oh, I didn't notice. Pet, pet, pet.
Mm-hmm. It's just like you're really old.
And we see Kendra seeing them smooching, and she obviously with vamp face going on.
Mm-hmm. Yes. But yeah, Angel knows what the ring means. So he's like, this isn't good.
Yeah.
Because it's not just the three, like they just keep sending order members after order member until it's done. Like, well, that's what's supposed to happen.
Yeah, they say that, but until they collect their bounty. Yeah. And Xander's trying to be flippant about it, and Giles is like, no, this is not okay. This is dangerous. Like, Buffy, you need to hide. And so Buffy gets actually really paranoid, and she's like waiting to be attacked at any moment. And then she like attacks Oz, thinking Oz is the assassin. And Oz is like, she's like, try it. And he's like, try what? I'm not sure what it is I'm supposed to be trying. And makes this kind of comment like, oh, she's quite tense.
Yeah. And one important thing about the order is they all work alone. Like they're not actively working together on anything, and they each have that's one of the reasons I think she's so paranoid, is because like it's not like she's gonna see a group. It's not a collaborative effort. I mean, technically, 2 could attack her at once, or 3, or whatever.
Yeah. And so Angel goes to Willie's bar, where Willie is a human who is just kind of a sleaze. And he's like, I'm not a snitch anymore. I'm going straight-ish. But he serves demons and humans in his bar.
He's pretty much a snitch, like or like an informant for the police, right? Someone who has like a checkered past and isn't really out of the life, but moonlights like they are.
And then Angel gets attacked by Kendra, who thinks he's a bad vampire, and she locks him in a metal cage in front of an eastern-facing window. And sunrise is coming up soon, and then she just like walks away, and I totally don't buy that Angel could not kick his way out of that cage, but he's like, like, I can't escape this metal cage that's only being held by one padlock.
And we've talked about this before, like with the cage in the library. In the first episode, we see vampires tear down like this big metal door, but suddenly this thing with all these holes in it, can't get out. Like, is it blessed? What is this?
I don't know.
But we see the same thing here. Apparently, cages, vampires aren't good in them.
Yep. And so Buffy goes to Angel's place and she lies down in his bed, his tiny little twin-size bed, like, in
Like
his...
I feel like when Angel got that bed, he was like, I still must suffer.
Yeah.
The smallest bed possible.
This is one step up from sleeping on the ground. I shall allow myself a bed, but not a big bed. A little bed.
Yes. Sigh. Oh, this is so nice.
With my mini fridge of pig's blood.
Mm-hmm. That's why he liked Mr. Gordo so much.
Yep, and his one little sad, like, high school metal chair in the corner.
He does have that nice, like, like that decorative thing though. Do you know what I'm talking about? The panels?
Yep.
Yeah.
It's weird what he's got and what he doesn't. And so Giles wakes up Willow, who has fallen asleep. Wait. Before he wakes her up, he's like yelling at Xander to go find Buffy. And he's like, get Cordelia to give you a ride. Like, yeah. And then he wakes up Willow, and Willow says, don't warn the tadpoles.
Yep.
Because she apparently has frog fear.
Don't warn the tadpoles.
Don't warn the tadpoles.
Mm-hmm.
And he comments on that. He's like, don't warn the tadpoles.
Frog fear.
But the way that Giles responds to Willow versus the way that Giles responds to Xander is so drastically different. Whereas, he kind of doesn't, I don't know if he doesn't have respect for Xander. It's that he's just kind of irritated by Xander, whereas he wants to educate and work with Willow.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Well, I mean, Willow very quickly shows that she is an integral part of everything. I mean, Xander's obviously done so, he saved Buffy's life, but Willow and him share the love of books.
Yes.
They're certainly more alike, and also Willow doesn't drive Giles up a wall fighting with Cordelia all the time and all of his weird boyish things. Xander does go and get Cordelia, or as he calls her sometimes now, Cordy. And they go to Buffy's house, but she's not home, as we know. So they meander on in.
Yep. Oh, and to this line, well, to the guy, but also to the line where she says, "What am I, mass transit?" And Xander says, well, that's what the guys say, but that's just locker room talk.
Mm-hmm.
And we are in 2020, but in 2016, we had a lot of conversations about locker room talk too. So, which makes me think some things never change.
Yeah. And I feel like she would not say mass transit. That would be the change now. Maybe, what am I, Uber?
Yep.
In which case that doesn't really make sense, is come back with that.
Yep. And so, but yes, so Norman Pfister shows up from Blush Cosmetics, and
he's already killed the neighbor.
And he's already killed the neighbor and like watched, and he's like, oh, there's a woman in the house, and he, puts his way in, and he's like, so he's like a normal guy, and I feel like he picked the name Norman because Norman is normal. And yep, and he's just like, can I interest you in some free samples? And he comes inside, and how can someone be both a summer and a winter? I was looking at the seasons, and so you've got your season and you've got your flow. And so like your seasons are, summer, autumn, spring, and winter. And then your flow is bold, deep, I'm forgetting the other two, but like Summer and winter I think one of them's bright.
Yeah.
But summer and winter are the exact opposite, because winter is cool but bold, and summer is warm and bright. Like,
And the easiest way to tell them apart is, what do you look better in, gold or silver?
mm-hmm.
And looking at Cordelia, I don't even need to put it, it's going to be gold that looks better on her.
Yep.
But she is so full of herself. Everything looks great on her.
I know you wouldn't look, but I'm a summer and a winter.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah. And so she's looking at stuff, and then she sees the bugs, and okay. But actually, I don't think we've reached that part yet.
Nope.
Because she just lets him in because free samples. And then we go to Angel's bedroom, and Kendra is attacking Buffy, and Buffy thinks that she's the next Order of Taraka person. And then she's like, who are you? Or so first, Kendra says, who are you? And Buffy's like, you attacked me. Like, who are you? And she goes, I'm Kendra, the Vampire Slayer. And then Buffy's, huh? And then we get a to be continued. And in 1997, we had to wait a full week.
Yeah. If we were lucky, sometimes it'd be 2 weeks.
Yep.
Like, if there was something big on TV, or God forbid, a news briefing, it would be the next week that we would have to wait.
Yep.
So now we move right into What's My Line Part 2. And Kendra and Buffy is, we pick up right back there, and Buffy's like, come again? What do you mean you are the Slayer? I'm the Slayer. And she's like, that's not possible. And fighting.
Only one in all the world. And so Buffy's like, okay, hang on a second. Let's pause. Let's talk to my watcher. And she's like, oh, well, if you've got a watcher, then all right. And so they go and they talk to the watcher, and Giles is like, no, there's only one, unless the previous Vampire Slayer dies. Oh, hang on a second, Buffy, you died. And she's
like a second.
Just a little bit. I was just a little dead.
I kind of find it hard to believe that this has never happened before.
I know.
CPR has been around for a really long time. Like, well, I mean, with how fast they go through Vampire Slayers, yes.
Well, okay, but how often do you think Vampire Slayers are dying from, like, drowning, where you can use CPR, as opposed to having their neck snapped?
Accidents happen. I'm just saying, like, accidents happen. There used to be lots of diseases, and we do know that while Buffy's immunity is higher, she does get sick sometimes.
Yep.
But at any rate, also the actress who plays Kendra shows up on the Vampire Diary. She plays a witch from back in the olden days, and she has no shitty accent.
Well, so apparently Marty Noxon had decided last minute he wanted her to have an accent, and he brought in a dialect coach to make it sound like a good accent, and the dialect coach, like, specifically made her sound this way, and it just sounded awful. And they're all like, ugh, like, but she did what the dialect coach taught her to do, and changed everything. I guess he was, trying to, like, go for a very specific, like, village in Jamaica sort of thing. Like, he was basically...
He went for Sebastian the Crab, is what he went for. He went for Sebastian the vampire slaying crab.
So yeah,
like when I was rewatching this, that's all I could think of. Like, under the sea, and it's just like, this is not good.
No, it was
not good at all.
And so Kendra, is like, well, I thought that you were bad because you were kissing a vampire. And Milla's like, she would never, except when she does.
He's a good one. And of course, Kendra's there like, uh-huh.
And Giles is like, no, it's true. It's true. It's weird, but it's true. And then because the Watcher says it, she guesses that she has to go along with it. But then they find out that she left him to die, so they go scurrying off to Willie's to make sure that he's not dead. But Willie has already basically taken Angel and dumped him in the sewer and given him to Spike for money, so that Spike can have his wicked way with him.
Yes. Oh, what was it? Spike, it says like, oh, I'm thinking maybe dinner and a movie or something like that.
Yeah,
or
they take him to dinner and a movie. Take it slow. I've been hurt before.
I love him so much. Like that dialogue.
Spike, I feel, is the most adaptable vampire of all the vampires. He's the one most willing to change and adapt and keep up with the times.
And it makes so much sense when, later on, he doesn't want the world to end. He enjoys everything. Like, he's having a ball. He didn't like his human life, and he's having fun now, damn it. Like, that's what he's doing. So that I also really like that it makes sense with who he is. And I've never understood. Well, we'll get into that in that episode, like why vampires would want the world to end. Their smorgasbord.
Yep. So we find out that they need the blood of their sire in order to restore Drusilla. That's Drusilla's cure. And so he brings Angel all beat up to Drusilla, and Drusilla has been talking about how Spike had a firebrand in her dream, and then she's like, we were in Paris, you had a brand, like you had a firebrand or a fire poker or something, and then she's like, can I have Angel to play with me? He's like, okay, don't kill him, but go play.
And he's not thrilled about this. Like, you can see it on his face. Like, he's like, okay. Because Angel is Drusilla's sire, but also there's always been a rivalry between Angel and Spike. And a sexual one at that when it comes to Drusilla, which we see very quickly in this episode.
Oh, yes. And because it's so hard to resist Drusilla's whims. He loves his Drusilla. And so and so I hadn't thought about this. Now this is later when we see the torture, but I'm going to jump ahead to it for a second. She's torturing him, and she's talking about her family and how he killed her family. And she seems really resentful of what he did to her. And I'm like, as a vampire, should she really care anymore that he killed her family? But I'm wondering if maybe it's strictly, you did these things to hurt me, and now you have a conscience, and how dare you hurt me?
I always took it as, because she's also, he did that to drive her insane. And she definitely knows that, like on some level. And I think she's resentful that, I think no matter what, she would have had the power she has, but she would have had an easier time communicating. And I think that has to be frustrating for her at some points. Like, maybe she doesn't really want to care that Miss Edith has been naughty and needs a new dress or whatever. So, I mean, I would be pissed too. It could be like, someone who has Alzheimer's and has that moment of clarity, and this is her moment of clarity, and she's pissed. And the person in front of her right now isn't exactly her sire. It's someone masquerading as him, really, in her mind. So not only did he kill and torture her family, but now he doesn't even have the decency to be him.
And she calls him a bad daddy. You've been a very bad daddy. And then slap. Oh, strong BDSM vibes are happening in this situation right now.
Everything with Drusilla is very strong BDSM vibes. Fire poker, and she's very like, like to Spike. Like, it's not a bad thing that he had that.
So yeah, where are we going now? I think the next scene.
So we have to go back to Cordy and Xander and the Bugman.
Yep.
No matter how much you don't want to go there, Jasmine.
Norman Pfister.
This scene, like has never bothered me. Like bugs don't really freak me out. So, yeah. I mean, I don't think
erupting into bugs. Like he just kind of into bugs. And so they try to run out of the house, but he has like schlooped and then like reformed in front of the door. So they run into the basement, and Cordelia's like, "Here's some duct tape. I don't do worms."
Yeah.
So Xander's like, okay, so he like comes up, and they are sniping at each other. And they are sniping at each other,
but in a way that like you feel like the building of tension between them very quickly, and because they're also getting closer and closer and closer together.
Yep. And insulting each other. And I watched very carefully. Xander moves first, because later he says I was the jumpy, but no, I watched. He jumps first, and then she puts her arms up around him. Like he goes in and she goes up, but he moves first. But yeah, there's definitely tension, and then they kiss, and then they stop kissing, and Xander's like, "We gotta go. Like,
we gotta get out of here."
Like, and so then they're running, and they don't see him. And as they're running, all of a sudden, Norman Pfister falls all over Cordelia. And so she runs out, and she's still got her sweater on her. And instead of like ripping her clothes off, she's like, "Get them off me, get them off me." But she's not like, I would be like, "Phew." I was reading a Reddit story about a woman who got a wasp in her cleavage and like ripped off her shirt, and like, because wasp in her cleavage, and she's like just like free boobing it, and there were a bunch of workers next door that were like, "Oh, hello, random crazy lady who's like slapping her breast."
And screaming, I imagine.
Yeah. But like, I feel like in that situation, were I covered in bugs, I would not care about anyone seeing me. I would be like, "Bloop," like, "Get them off me."
Maybe she just doesn't want them like in touching her naughty bits.
But I mean, like, she's wearing a bra, she's wearing underwear. The bugs are on the dress.
Yeah.
Like, just shoosh that off. And like,
well, thankfully, Xander's there to spray her with the hose, which he does a bit too long.
Well, you see him going from sprayer to rest.
Fantasy.
Like, he zones out, and she's like, "Come on."
Yep. So they run away. And then we jump back to the school. We're still at career day. Yep. This is all one day.
Yes, one very long, dramatic day. Willow and Oz are talking. And she's asking him, "Are you gonna do, like, follow it?" And he's like, "Nah, not really."
And Buffy is back at the school at this point.
Yep. And she goes to the law enforcement seminar, and Patrice, the officer, goes, "All right, call out your name when when I call your name, respond. Buffy Summers, here." Like, first name, forget A through R. We're going with Buffy Summers. Pulls out her gun and attacks.
And shoots Oz.
Yes, shoots Oz. Although
she would have shot Willow, but Oz takes a bullet for her. Get down.
Oh, so sweet.
Mm-hmm.
And Kendra comes to Buffy's rescue, and poor Jonathan gets
Mm.
taken hostage, and he was like, was that a demonstration?
Yeah.
He's just so oblivious. Like,
Mhm. Yep.
um,
Um, so yeah.
so then, like, we've got, everybody in the library, and Kendra's there, and Giles is there, and and Buffy and Willow's like wrapping up Buffy's leg, and she's like, thanks to Kendra. And then Xander and Cordelia show up, and Kendra starts to do her like, who are you sort of thing. And they're like, it's cool, it's fine. Cordelia can't even. She's like, yeah, hi. Okay, other vampires there. Hi. I'm going away. Like, I'm walking this way now.
Mhm.
And Xander does his like kind of skeevy, like, oh, you're a slayer. Like, I like that in a woman. And Kendra, like, you can't talk, because
Looking at the floor.
apparently, bullshit, she was given to her watcher at such a young age, she doesn't remember her parents. She's not allowed to talk to boys. She doesn't even have a last name. There is nothing beyond vampire slayer. I'm the vampire slayer, or I was a vampire slayer potential. They call me Kendra, she says, because you don't really think that she views her name as her identity. Her identity is vampire slayer.
Yeah, I wrote that she is a by the book vampire slayer. Like, she does lots of research. There's a handbook, which Buffy was shocked to find out. And Giles was like, I realized once upon meeting you, Buffy, that the handbook would be of no use.
Yep.
So Kendra, it was really drowned into her, like, this is who you potentially are. If you're lucky enough to be chosen, this is all you are.
Yep.
And that's it. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. And she says that with her people view this as a big honor, and this is, a really big deal. But even so, like, I mean, and people do that for other things. People do that for religions and things like that. But yeah, this is all Kendra knows.
Mm-hmm.
And
Indoctrinated. That like that's so and then Buffy reveals to everyone that Angel is Drusilla's sire, so they need to find this church because no one messes with her boyfriend.
yes.
And
because they realize that this ritual means killing Angel for Drusilla to get her power back, her vamp power, not her special power that she has as an added bonus.
Yep. And so Angel tries to rile Spike up into killing him, and Spike almost does it. Mm-hmm. And Drusilla's like, no. And then he's like, oh wait, hang on a second. And because he sees the big picture, he's like, no, we're gonna do you slow.
Yep. And he riles him up by saying, like, oh, Drusilla really likes, the foreplay type thing. And really like putting Spike down as a sexual partner. Yep. And that's all it takes. And Spike's like,
Spike's like, whatever. And then he's like, ask Drusilla. And Drusilla very playfully goes, bad dog. Like, she's flirting with him right in front of Spike. And Spike's like, no. Like, that, I think that was the part that turned him, was the fact that Drusilla teased back.
Yeah. Bad doggy.
She's not like, oh no, Spikey, it's just you. You completely satisfy me. She's like, shush, Angel, don't do that.
Emotional manipulation yet again. Not a healthy relationship, folks.
So then Buffy and Kendra have this great conversation where Kendra's like, I'm by the book, I'm really well trained, I don't have emotional commitments. And Buffy's like, my emotions make me strong. I use my emotions to make me stronger. And she's the first vampire slayer who has friends, who has attachments, who, and so she tells Kendra, all these things, they make me strong. And then she riles up Kendra on purpose. And when Kendra feels that anger, Buffy's like, see, like, you have emotions. You have emotions and you use those emotions. So.
And this is, I've always taken that to mean like, so in the US, whenever like whenever they talk about a female president or something like that, it's, well, no, she'll be too emotional, da 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 da. And it's, and not just that, but any position of power or anything like that. And that's Joss Whedon saying like, no, that's not how that works. Like, your emotions give you power. Sometimes your emotions are what help you determine what's right and wrong. You need them. And also for showing how quickly someone who says, I don't have emotions, is so easily riled up.
Oh, yes.
So they go back to Willie's, and Willie is just like, oh yeah, I gave Angel to Spike, and
he doesn't say that. He says, oh, I helped him go underground.
Yeah. And immediately Buffy is like, we have to go with Willie, and Kendra's like, absolutely not, we have to go back to the Watcher. And she's like, Angel could die by then. And Kendra's like, don't care, it's in the handbook, gotta go. So they split. And Willie leads Buffy right into the hands of, I think it's Taraka, the Order, right?
Yeah, it's the Order of Taraka. So it's Patrice and Norman Pfister, and then 2 vampires. And he says, back to back, here you go. Don't say your friend Willie, don't come through in a pinch. And then he turns the corner and he goes, here you go. Don't say your friend Willie, don't come through in a pinch.
Yep. He's a survivor.
And so, of course, at this point, Spike's doing his, Eligor, who is one of the, demon lords of hell, give us your power, blah, 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 doing his ritual. He's got this
ritual. Right after they kill the anointed one for doing too many rituals, they do rituals.
Yep. And he's got his little, I don't even know what it's called.
The shaky thing with the incense.
Incense on a chain. And then of course Willie brings Buffy in, and he's like, what are you thinking? Why are you bringing the one person we don't want here to the place that we don't want them? Because Willie's not always that smart.
And he does what a lot of like evildoers do, right? They're just like, I have the upper hand, I will tell you my whole plan now. And it's that cockiness that gets them. That's basically what he's done. He's like, come and see.
Yep. And so, like, of course he says, Angel's going to be only alive for 5 more minutes, but he's got 5 more minutes than you. And that's when, in comes the rest of the Scoobies with Kendra. So we've got Cordy and Xander taking on Norman Pfister. They use like liquid glue to like hold him in his bug form, and then they just stomp on him.
Yeah. Smart.
Patrice has her like wrist daggers and her guns. And so, like, they swap, between Spike and Kendra and Patrice and Buffy, and they swap so that they can fight each other because, Spike really prefers fighting Buffy.
Yeah, it's personal with them. And Patrice cuts Kendra's shirt.
Yep.
And Kendra gets pissed. She yells, "That's my favorite shirt. That's my only shirt." And
Yep.
then the level of ass kicking goes straight up.
Cause emotions. Cause
Mhm.
emotions.
Mhm.
And then we've got Giles and Willow, like, and Willow's going, hold him steady, while she like stakes in the vampires. Of course, at this point, Drusilla has not been able to finish the entire ceremony, but it's got to be enough. And Spike tries to get her out of there because things have gone south for them. And Buffy takes his little incense shaker and knocks him out and drops an entire church organ on his body on fire.
Yep. And Kendra helps Buffy get Angel the hell out of the now burning church.
Yep. But you see this very tender moment between Buffy and Angel and Ken. I mean, it's not just Ken, it's all of them. They clock it. They clock this very tender, oh, I love him moment. So we get to school and Willow is talking to Oz as Oz gets animal crackers and she's trying to thank him and he's like, don't do thanks. And she's like, oh, okay, never mind. But then she tries to thank him anyways. And he immediately changes the subject. And he's like, oh, hey, look, a monkey animal cracker. And
monkeys are the only ones that wear pants.
And then he just slips right on in. You have the sweetest smile I've ever seen in my life. And then before she can respond to that, he's right back to the monkey. Like,
he's a smooth operator.
So smooth. And I'm just like, oh, Oz. Oh, Oz.
I want to date Oz.
And then he tells her that all monkeys are French. And so Kendra and Buffy are saying goodbye, and Kendra is wearing one of Buffy's shirts, so now she has another shirt. And Kendra is going back on the plane in a seat. With a ticket in a seat.
Yes.
Although, does she have a passport? Like, they did not really explain that. No. But 1997,
it's pre 9/11, so it's a little easier to work around.
Yep. And Buffy makes another comment about slaying being her job, and Kendra's like, no, it's not a job, it's who you are. And Buffy, she says, like, okay, but I do appreciate not being the only one in the world. Like, I do appreciate that I can now share this experience with someone else. And then we go to the ruins of the church, and Spike is just charred. And then we see Drusilla, who just lifts him up with one very well-defined arm. And then she picks him up and she carries him from the church. And this is the start of Drusilla.
And she's like, don't worry, I'll help you get big and strong again.
Yep.
But we missed, so before we go to the church, Xander and Cordy are in school as well, and they go off into an empty, I think, science lab, or an empty classroom.
Full mech, because there were sewing machines.
Yes. And they're arguing about the kiss and who was the kissee and who was the kisser, and then they smooch-a-rooney again, and the door is like right there.
Yep.
So.
And he was like, it was just fear, you jumped me, and she's like, no, you jumped me, and but obviously they're developing this hate-love relationship with high hormones.
All of the hormones.
Yep. So, and this is the first time that Xander is dating a human.
Not dating, just making out with one.
Yep.
Thankfully, well, no, I get because he did kiss Empata, right?
Yep.
Yeah. So,
he kissed Miss French.
Oh yeah.
So
This might be the first time he's kissing a human.
yep.
Quite sad. Yeah, so that concludes this week of Just Jossing. Next week we'll be back with 2 more episodes.
And we've got 2 Monster of the Week episodes next week. We have Ted and Bad Eggs.
Yes. Yes. So there won't be as much arc. There might be a monarch going on, but that's about it. So until next week, thank you for Just Jossin with me.
Yes, thank you so much for Just Jossin.